Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to this exclusive video series on Adaptable HR. The future is now. Brought to you by People Matters in association with Alight. My name is Esther Martinez. I'm the editor-in-chief at People Matters, and I'll be the host for this conversation today. It's my privilege to bring to you some of the key highlights of the Asia-Pacific largest studies on HR transformation that was conducted by Alight in partnership with People Matters, and taking also the views of some of the leading CHROs on the region on what's adaptable really meaning to them and their business. For all uncertainty and ambiguity that we are all navigating through during this time of pandemic, one of the things is really clear, which is the future is digital, the future is adaptable, and the future is human as well. And for HR in particular, how do we help our organizations navigate through the ever-changing business and operating environment is the big need of the hour. So for this episode, I have the opportunity and the privilege to invite and welcome our panelists. We have with us Min-Hin Yo. He's Director, Group HR at Keppel Corporation. And we have Shaswat Kumar, Vice President and Asia Head Advisory for Payroll and Cloud at Alight Solutions. I'm going to give a very, very quick brief about each one of them as I introduce them. Min-Hin Yo needs no introduction for many of you in the region. He leads HR for the group level at Keppel Corporation, a multinational business with a global footprint providing solutions for sustainable urbanization. He's a leader with a very versatile and diverse experience from HR, operations, business development. He defines himself as a business leader who has deep experience in transformation and human resources. And he's also an active member in the community. Min-Hin is a member of IHRP and a board member of SCORE, where he has served for over 8 years. So it's a pleasure to welcome you, Min. A very warm welcome to this conversation today.
Thank you.
Joining us as well, we have Shaswat Kumar. He's a lead traveler in this journey in the last few months in this gigantic effort to take HR transformation study as the largest study in the region. Shaswat has been advisory to numerous Fortune 500 corporations in HR, delivery transformation, shared services, offshoring, and change management initiatives. And prior to this role, he led Asia Pacific HR transformation practice for Aon Hewitt. A very warm welcome, Shaswat, as well.
Yeah, thanks, Esther. Look forward to this discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So thanks both of you for taking time for being with us. The structure for today is going to be 2 parts. So we first requested Shaswat to take us through some of the key findings of HR Transformation Study 2021. And we'll follow that with a conversation with our esteemed guest this morning to see how this adaptable HR really comes alive in a particular context at Keppel Corporation. So let's begin with the first part. Shaswat, over to you.
Hi, Min-Hin. Once again, thanks for giving time. What I will do, I will quickly share a brief construct of adaptability and how we have defined it the way we have defined, and then take a pause, and based on your inputs, we'll get into any specific area if needed. This is a slide about Alight. I will not get into details of it. You know Alight very well. We have had privilege to work with you. Alight is all about HR transformation, so I will not take any time on this. And this is a construct, Min-Hin. What happened was, you remember we were supposed to launch the study in February, and we delayed it. So we went back and started looking at, because the whole research and the report was done, we said that we have a construct on adaptability and let's see what's happening. What we saw was all the HR leaders were enabling businesses to continue operations and run with, and these were really, it essentially itself was the result, the fact that operations could continue. The other thing which was happening was active listening to employee sentiments and well-being and taking care of it, and you were talking about some of that. Collaborating both within HR way better. So even HR functions where in past collaboration was challenged, in current times HR collaborated well. And HR was collaborating with business leaders, in community with industry and also with the larger government stakeholders and so on. And HR was taking feedback to change policies, recalibrate it, and so on. So, in many ways, it connected to the construct of what adaptability is. And in our own assessment, HR actually gained confidence over and lot of credit over last 3-4 months as community. So if you look at 2008 financial crisis and a lot of CFOs gain credibility, I think because it's a social crisis and health crisis, HR has come out shining over last 3-4 months for the kind of effort and the stretch they have taken. So in many ways, this was really very much living the adaptable life. But the question was, is it just an amplification of a situation or it's ongoing? So that's where going back to our, this construct is old. So we have been kind of, this is from the first cycle of HRT study where we said that HR is to enable the overall success of organization and business. And because businesses are changing, org and job reconfigurations are happening, and talent experience and aspirations are changing. So HR will have this constant change in demand, and hence the need for adaptability, which we looked at variety of ways to define it. We said it's simple. It's about sensing and adjusting to new conditions. So when we said that adaptable framework is there, the question was what really defines that framework. So, Mengin, going back to the earlier construct of HRT, we used to always say that from organization's perspective, outcomes are very important, experience is important, and analytics is important. Literally, these are the three things needed. But as we put on the framework of adaptability and how adoption happens, we said while outcomes are needed, it's not really outcomes, it's a joint commitment to outcomes between business and HR, and both of them could actually come back and change it for one reason or the other. So this joint commitment to outcomes is important. Experience is not about delivering program with a customer centric lens once, but it's about ongoing adoption because the expectations will continue to move to next level, and hence moving away from program view to user view. But it's also an ongoing change. There is nothing like which a project which ends. Once the project ends, the journey begins to see how you can improve it further. And the third, people analytics, while it's broad, the question is, can we convert people analytics to a GPS tool, which is helping us navigate to the future? So constantly getting HR right directionally to outcomes which matters, need to change those outcomes and move it forward. And hence we called it navigating to the future. So that was the change in construct from what's needed out of HR. From a discipline perspective, we said that there is a need to change discipline and how things are done across three things, which is design, the way design is done. Outcome design will be less functional, it will be more cross-functional, collaborative. Experience will be more data driven because you need to measure and change things. And governance in HR, which is outside in, and it's in many ways the weakest link in HR is to get governance with business on data and then really drive collaboration within HR on that input coming from business to take action. So that's the third discipline. So that's how we created this construct, and we started testing it out with what data is signifying and saying. So when we tested it out on, and these details are in, this is there in way more detail in the report itself, but we saw that there is significant shift in organizations as they start making the journey. As organizations, what we call digital divide, which you are anyhow driving at the organization, is to get the HR operating model and the digital to talk together. So a true digital success is technology and HR operating model going hand in hand, reconfiguring the work of HR as technology happens. So that's a big jump, and we call that digital divide. But to us, the bigger surprise, Menghin, was when we said, okay, can we look at, if, because today when it comes to satisfaction on platform, it's not one time, it's ongoing, because on cloud platforms are changing. None of the platforms perfectly fit your requirement, so you need to adapt to that, and then you need to evolve. So we further sliced it to say organizations which have defined HR operating model, have a defined HR tech strategies, but are highly satisfied with their technology. There we saw even the pattern change. So what we saw was that these organizations were moving ahead on navigating to the future. And later on, we have more data on this in report, or I can share it. This was happening because these organizations were getting their governance right. So they established a cadence where with data, they were sitting with business leaders, talking about the talent strategy and why it's the right strategy, how data is informing progress on that, agreeing on gaps, going back, launching programs, project initiatives to cover for those gaps, and again doing that conversation. So that's one area where these organizations are way ahead of the other. So not only we realize that the overall adaptability framework will have these three anchors, but in many ways for us the lead anchor is changing the ways of working in HR, which is the ability to navigate to the future, and that became the discipline divide. So that's really adding the data insight around adaptability connect. Then to validate it, we looked at it, is there a difference in where these organizations are able to focus on? So organizations who have crossed the whole digital divide and have created that efficiencies, they are able to use that bandwidth to focus on higher order things, which are inputs on the right side. So they are able to drive and help pace of innovation in business, which is a lot of organization change and so on. They are able to drive employee experience aspirations better. They are focusing on culture and so on. Interestingly, because these organizations have everything else in control, they are also the ones who are able to pick up new HR disruptions better, and they tend to do way well. In fact, nearly 2.5 times better on then adapting things like robotics or newer technologies in HR. So both on efficiency and strategic impact, these organizations are pulling ahead. And final piece for us was then their own confidence around, and there is some bias of self assessment here, but on average when you look at all organizations put together, as organizations are moving higher on the adaptability side, you are seeing a greater swing around confidence around readiness to address the risk which everyone is seeing from emerging from the business perspective. And that really led us to two conclusions. Why adaptability is important and core to HR transformation is because fundamentally HR transformation is not for HR. It's about enabling multiple business transformations which are happening. And then you have multiple times talked about that's how HR needs to add value to business. So that became really the core anchor why adaptability seems to be adding value, because it's getting HR ready to enable multiple other business transformations happening. So I will take a pause there. That's what I just wanted to share and explain the construct. Rest is there in the study. Look forward to hearing from you, and any specific area if you want me to unpack, I can unpack it for you. Thanks, Mengen.